CBS News.
It's Saturday, baby.
Welcome back to another Ask a DM. I am joined once again with Dylan, Tom, and Josho. Tonight's question: should a player play more than one character in the same campaign or one-shot? Josho, what do you think?
In my own experience, if you don't feel comfortable playing one character yet, you should try playing two.
That's fair.
I would like to point out that everyone at this discussion has played two characters in a game at least once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mine died in a fireball.
That's why you shouldn't play two if you can't handle one.
Exactly. This is the first
And the
point
answer
concluded.
is, as long as you, the DM, are comfortable with that person playing two characters and doing that sort of character inventory every game,
Yeah.
I don't see why it should be an issue.
Dylan?
I 100% agree with what both of you are saying. The biggest concern most people have is from outside the game looking in. There is no winning Dungeons and Dragons, but there is certain metrics of success, like how much loot you acquire, what your level is. Like how many distribution of XP, like whether or not you complete the module, so like there are dynamics of the game that could, from the uninitiated, denote a success versus failure. And having multiple characters effectively increases your success ratio.
Yeah.
And so I was actually having a discussion with one of my players, in my Thursday night group, who, I let them, under the same circumstances, they can play multiple characters. However, one person did voice their concern that they weren't comfortable with somebody else playing more than one character, because they felt like it would skew the power dynamic at the table.
The loot distribution as well. Like how much
Yeah.
goes to that second character.
And
Yes.
the power distribution would definitely
Exactly.
because you fill more roles with that. Because that group's only 4 players,
5.
5 players.
Yeah.
So then effectively you could pretty much have your buffer, your debuffer, your skill monkey, your tank, your DPS,
Yep.
your any number. Your
You can
healer.
have the
could
perfect
cover-
soup. Yeah.
You could everything's covered. Which when you have less, there's your challenge aspect.
I did do a little bit of research going into this one, though, just because the topic is so fresh. This is kind of like a heavily debated topic online.
I can see why.
And basically, in my opinion, I see no significant difference between allowing a character, an additional character to a player, so one player playing more than one, and also allowing certain spells and feats and abilities that mimic the same effect. Right? So,
A leadership feat from all the
leadership feat
editions.
from some of the older
Cohorts.
editions, cohorts, simulacrums.
Yeah.
There are always there's also again a lot of feature in the games. Coltrane, yeah.
Summoner.
The spellcaster
the
who
yeah.
creates his own fighter.
Yeah. And there is a feature that is often heavily overlooked on Dungeons & Dragons, which is the ability to purchase hirelings.
Yeah.
Right? So you can literally hire a band of mercenaries to follow the party around, and as long as you feed them, pay them, and make sure they're not, doing anything silly, then there's no reason why the party can't consist of more than, a certain number of, like a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
And especially too, like another argument that people give is in terms of action economy. You literally have one person taking up more time at the table than some of the other players.
The 30-minute summoner turn.
The 30-minute summoner turn,
Yep.
or
Yeah.
the Velocipaster, right?
Yeah.
The cleric. It's the cleric with the animal domain, so that they
Yeah.
can't summon nature's ally, but they only summon dinosaurs.
That can't be a thing.
That
That has only been around
sounds
2 years.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Stop
boy.
trying to make it a thing.
It is,
It's
but
not a thing.
unfortunately,
It's
it's
a
like
thing.
with
I'm
the
taking it
summoner
back.
build, the Jurassic Park.
Wasn't gonna leave that.
The turns take
I'm gonna
forever in
stop
the older editions. It's
Uh,
5e nerf summoning a little bit, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
with some of the
you're-
older editions, you know, like there's nothing you could get.
Oh, yeah,
you could
3.5.
prep a repeated summon monster 6 as a level 9 spell, and summon. Actually, no, yeah, and then use a rod of maximized spell type 3, and over the course of 3 rounds, summon 12 monsters to help you with one standard
Each
action.
with their own. If they
so-
don't have their own,
Yeah.
it's all working off of his, which once gives you the 30-minute turn.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like there are
If not
ways
longer.
to break the action economy,
Yeah.
and again, you know, purely from a dungeon master standpoint, I see no significant difference in hello Bruce, in allowing somebody to do a summoner build versus allowing somebody to play an additional character.
yeah, I mean it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I would like to bring up on this one, though, when it comes to playing multiple characters, is and I've had the hardest problem with this when playing 2 characters is making sure that that person is not only keeping up on their inventory,
Yeah.
but keeping up on whose inventory is what. Because there's too many times where the party will be split, and one of my guys is here, and one of my guys is here, and I'll be like, "Don't worry, this guy has 50 foot of rope." No. This guy has 50 foot of rope.
Oh, don't
But
worry,
you
I-
just looked at a
I
piece of
resist
paper
fire.
and said 50
That's
foot of
that
rope.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I like to call it the one job mistake.
I-
The one job. No, who has one?
I knew that was a problem I had with Sherman as well. gave a magic item to Grendir, but then I thought it was on Sherman when I made him.
Yeah.
Like I gave it to him as like stone payment. It was never on the character sheet that I wrote, so he never actually had it.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not fond of. I like the challenge of using what you have as a resource, as group resources, and when you do have more, like someone playing 2 characters, it does skew that, saying, okay, well now they have more, and it kind of does create that imbalance. Like when we're doing the big 3.5 game where it was the end of the world type situation, you're like, hey guys, if you want to play multiple characters, and I brought in a rogue swashbuckler combination, but only to fill in a gap because we had less players at the time, and there was
And
definitely a
being
gap in output
overpowered.
damage. So I used it for a little bit, but then at one point he was one of the few. I think he was the only remaining second character at that point. But we had another player come in who was now playing a damage dealer. So when Jock died, I was like, they were going right direction. I was like, nah. He says, I'm gonna stay dead.
Yeah.
Even though I enjoyed what he could do, I was like, we don't need this anymore.
You know what?
And I saw it more as a tool.
That is a good way to put it too. I agree that there should also be a need for
Yes.
that secondary character. Like with our campaign, our cleric was being so tasked with
Oh, yeah.
different things he had to do. He was the only full tank.
Yep.
He was the only healer.
Yeah.
He's supposed to also be frontline, and he couldn't do all 3 at the same time.
Yeah, you
So it's
were
like, no,
definitely
we need another
Yeah.
guy
Going in many
standing out at
directions.
the front line.
ADHD was killing me, and I'm like, oh, he's dying. No, he's dying, but he needs help over there. Okay, what
And
can
then
I
I
do?
am
I'm a
still the
healer.
one who had to
Heal that
remind
guy.
you you can heal at distance.
Well, yeah.
That's also why I'm fond of 5e released in
Yeah.
Natasha's book, Sidekicks, where they were more like half classes.
Yeah.
Like you could have a healer or a skill monkey or a basic warrior. 3.5 had it in the Monsters and Miniatures book or something, or the Miniatures book, and there was like a martial class. There was a healer type class.
Well, they do have NPC classes.
But basically, that's what those were, and I like those in the sense of like, hey, we're about to do a dungeon delve, and we don't actually have a skill monkey.
Yeah, we don't have anybody who can disarm traps.
So we're gonna hire in the sidekick who does not do anywhere near as much as the rest of the party can, but he's there for just this one thing, which is really no different than hirelings or
Yeah.
NPC,
Yeah.
but only to fill in that gap until other players step up. To then, okay, hey, go back to the academy. We don't need you anymore.
I'm just going to bring this up as one very embarrassing thing, but for some reason, our entire D&D campaign, every time somebody said hireling, I imagine a group of kobolds or a group of gnomes. Like little guys, like halflings.
Okay.
Hireling.
So every time you guys say hirelings, I just imagine it's like all these little gnomes like, we'll steer the ship!
Yeah.
Just pull them
Well,
out.
yeah, that definitely got you.
I
The main reason why I allow multiple characters at the table is, at the end of the day, the game's like about having fun.
It is.
And if playing more than one character is what's going to define fun for that player, then like
You
there's
want to
no
get the
reason-
option.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
yeah.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, we had I remember this very specific. I don't know if it was actually a different version of D&D, but the DM had us have 2 character sheets, and he ran us through the gauntlet, which was the idea was you had 2 characters, but the gauntlet was designed to essentially power level your characters if you could survive it. But if a character died, they're dead, and you're not allowed to make another second character.
Because you're
So
inside a
that's
dungeon.
pretty much every dungeon.
Yeah.
Well,
I've
no,
ever
you weren't
been.
allowed to ever make a second character again. You had those characters, and until that other character
Yeah.
died, you didn't make another one.
Well, that I mean, you mean for that dungeon
Yeah.
or that campaign?
That campaign.
Yeah,
I get
it's like
what you're
that.
saying. Yeah.
I think that might be a little overreaching with Rule 0 there. It's like, nope, once you're dead, you're out of this campaign. I'll see you next year when it finishes up. Or,
Essentially,
but by the way you're describing it, I'll see you next week once I finally killed all of you.
Yeah. Aside from,
Well, let me ask you this, guys, as a I guess as a question.
Sure.
Can you play Dungeons and Dragons by yourself, where you as the dungeon master have characters and are the dungeon master?
Yes.
it's called writing a book, I believe.
Yeah, but
Or it's just telling yourself a story and rolling dice
I mean,
to see
okay.
how it goes.
Yeah,
Choose your
but-
own adventure.
yeah, but ultimately the answer you would agree is yes.
Yes,
I would
you
like to
could.
point out
Would it be
um,
as fun though?
With an
Call of
asterisk.
Cthulhu actually does that for its tutorial, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You sit and it has some text, but you just read it to yourself and you just roll to go advance to the next page.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Now let's take us to the next step, where can you have a campaign with only 2 players?
Yes.
One dungeon master and 1 player who is running 1 or more characters.
Yes.
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 If
So
you play it by yourself, you can play
Actually,
with more.
in the Shadowrun beginner's box that I grabbed,
yeah,
it actually states that there's a solo adventure for 1 player.
yeah.
So yes, you absolutely can, and yes, you got to definitely kind of make whatever you're running. The fact that there's only 1 character, maybe more if they're playing more than 1, but
Yeah, but no. That's what I'm saying. Is
That's the
can you
point,
have a
yeah.
full party controlled by 1 player? It's a 1v1.
Yeah.
Almost like, yeah. So
See, I
from
just don't
that,
want people to get that mindset of the DM versus the players. So the 1v1.
well, yeah. Okay, yeah. So I'll retract that. You know, it's not a 1v1. It's a 1 and 1.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's a 1 plus 1.
Plus
yeah.
one?
No, it's 1 and
Plus
1.
1 and 1.
There's a distance there,
Yeah.
I think.
But from that, you could extrapolate that you could also have like 1 dungeon master, 2 players. Each player has 3 characters.
You could.
for a total party of 6.
I think that falls
Right.
into
But I still
filling
feel
in the
like
gaps.
you at some
of what's
point
needed.
would have to just crack your knuckles and go, well, technically I'm playing a whole world.
Yeah. But,
Yeah,
you know, I
exactly.
think it also goes to,
It's like, you're playing 3 characters, calm down.
Yeah.
on the player side, it also comes down to whether they want to do that.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
like, I don't. Tom,
I assume
respect
that's
to you
what we
for
were talking
keeping it
about.
going with Bernardo and Ricardo. Playing Sherman and Grenadier to me was kind of tedious because you would have to keep going back and forth between the character sheets, and it was a pain. Why are you tipping your head?
You asked to do that.
Well, I thought I would like it. I thought it was a good
It's like,
idea.
hey,
I
well,
tried it.
right,
I'd never
yeah.
done it
You
before.
tried it,
Well,
you didn't
Josh,
like it.
here's the cool thing. If you need a tip for how to do that, I use clipboards for my character sheets. So
Clipboard.
Bernardo has a clipboard, Ricardo has a clipboard. They're different shaped clipboards just to make it easier. So that way, what does Ricardo have? This. What does Bernardo have?
It does
Actually, that's
require
good.
better bookkeeping.
It
and that's
does.
the challenge that comes from it.
I have to
'cause
literally write down.
when I
What
was
did you
running
want?
Corvin, the Dragonfire Adept Shaman, and I had Jack, the swashbuckler
It was Jacques.
rogue
Yeah.
/ a little bit of tome of battle in there
I
too.
forget. Was he Mihaf or Straub?
Wait, Jacques?
Yeah.
It was Jacques the Andit.
Ah,
Or Zib Andit. It was Zabandit.
Jacques Zibanda.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyways, because this was a more I run up and stab and kill, it made it easier. So it was like having in college, you take one class you write essays and the other one that you don't.
Yeah.
You balance out your workload. But the only reason I retired him was because one, I was the only one wearing 2 characters at that point, and I didn't want to take away from any other player having a chance to be in the spotlight.
Oh yeah.
So I basically retired him when he died.
That campaign did cover one of the more annoying things about playing two characters. When it's like, okay, I have this character, and your buddy who sits next to you can't play anymore. It's like, oh, hey, well, hey, Tom, why don't you play his paladin as well?
Oh yeah, when Steve had to leave, and then we had.
Well, I wasn't gonna mention. I'm gonna throw people under the bus like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up having to play two characters, and I'm like, I don't even care about this guy.
Yeah. But so like in my Thursday night group, what happened is they rescued Apothelassos and they stopped the orc incursion. And in that dungeon, you find out some stuff and some things.
No,
Yeah.
Dylan, I gotta
And-
warn you, I'm a jealous bitch. I don't like you talking about other parties.
Yeah. And
what the hell?
they actually rescued some giants. So they rescued 2 stone giants, which are thematically neutral, true neutral. They're just kind of like being kept to themselves.
Oh, Rocket.
And a fire giant, and they atoned the fire giant to good, and had the 3 of them join the party. And those were the additional characters that one person was going to run,
So-
because there's also in that
I
group.
could have
other-
played a fire giant.
if you had rescued it, yeah.
Okay, cool.
We're going back. It's
No, I'm gonna rescue a mermaid.
We're going up there, man.
I mean,
We're going underwater
Wait.
1.2.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to the
Well,
altar
assuming.
shape
Yeah.
hat, he was
But so the
But the-
NPCs they rescued became characters in the party now.
Yes, and so they are treated as members of the party, but they do not have class levels. They have their racial hit die, right? They still get XP, and as they gain XP, they do hit certain milestones in order to add more hit die and other things like to their BAB and stuff like that, just like monsters as you can increase them, right? And so they do pull on the resources of the party, and as part of their agreement, to join the party, they made it stated that like they're full members of the party, they get an equal cut of the loot. They are not just going to be monsters that pull the cart.
Yeah.
Like they have a very specific role, and if you breach the role, they're going to politely decline, and if you threaten them, they're going
They're
to
still giants.
They're still giants. Yeah, yeah.
But they might be neutral, but they're still giants.
You know-
Yes, but they're still giants.
We used to have things that pulled carts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
and
had
then
an
you
airship.
misused them, and we lost them.
No, we sold them to a happy farm.
That's what we told you. We sent them to a nice farm
what we told them
upstate.
to work.
Yeah, but yeah, so like, but
How
all
come
three
Ricardo
of
wasn't
those, all
hungry
three of
anymore?
those giants are controlled by one player,
Van has extra glue. for
and
some
that's
reason.
because the player that they've been more or less assigned to is the group's previous dungeon master, right? So like he DM'd for multiple years. The only reason we're running the Sword of Air on Thursday nights with me as dungeon master is so he can take a break from DMing and play for a little bit. And I can also have a set of guinea pigs to test things on off camera before I
true.
bring them to the channel. So
Then we go to Bitterwood, and you're like,
yeah, and when they were added to the party, we told people that if your character gets knocked unconscious, you can grab the stone giants, right? We
Yeah.
made sure that they effectively have their own character sheets so that you can very clearly see their attack matrix, their hit points, their
Yeah.
armor class, all that kind of stuff.
It's like, oh, here. You got Henry right there, buddy.
Yep, exactly.
kind of like when we did the town defense and we had the squads.
Exactly like that.
That was
right?
very
you were
fun.
you were in control of those guys, and so
Yeah, soon on our next recorded game, we should be controlling a couple of people, if I remember correctly.
well that's if you guys
If we kite back to the city, we're hoping to not include them.
yeah
That's the hope. Not gonna happen, but that's the hope.
yeah
Because then we can rub it in her face that we took care of ourselves.
yeah.
That's the hope.
But yeah,
But you're
so,
saying-
yeah, no, I totally agree. And
Yeah.
I do think that and just to build on what you were saying, yes, it is additional bookkeeping, right? Because you're responsible for
It is very much additional bookkeeping.
yes, but
And you have to make sure that you're being meticulous about that bookkeeping.
yes,
So it's not forever.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree that it's not for everybody. But what I would say is that it is an excellent way to train your next dungeon master. Because as you
Oh,
just
yeah.
said before,
You-
you're
yeah,
playing
you're
three
playing the
characters,
whole
man?
world.
Yeah, I'm playing the whole world. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
adding on that little bit more responsibility, adding on that more of I'm not just playing this one character, and I don't just have to RP this one character, but I also have to understand what these other characters may be doing,
Yeah.
and more or less switch back and forth on the fly like that. where there's only 1 or 2 people of separation, that's a skill that a dungeon master has to have.
Yep.
Right? Like, if you're missing a player and you're in a critical moment, like in a dungeon crawl or something, and so you decide, well, I don't want to relinquish control of that character to another player in case they do something silly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play the character,
I'm
and
right
I
here while
also
you guys get
yeah. So like
Is that
I
why you
also
won't ever let me play other people's characters?
yes, exactly.
I do remember the one time a Sirius Gauss came to play.
Yeah.
When Lou was gone, you were just like, "All right,
He got him a honey
Cobalt,
dust.
we have this. Cobalt." I'm like, "Here we go."
Yeah. But yeah, like that's very difficult, you know, to be on both sides of the dice like that, right? I have to be fighting with the team, and I also have to be challenging the team at the exact same time, right? But at the end of the day, that is the responsibility of the dungeon master.
Yeah, you're
fair, a firm but fair arbitrator of the rules. And that's also why I encourage people to play multiple characters if they request it. I never push people into playing more than one.
You always say, hey guys, if you want to,
Yes.
the option's there.
Yeah, because I do believe it is an excellent way to train. I do believe it is an excellent way to train people to be dungeon masters, take them out of the level of player and bring them up into a higher level of understanding of the game. And I also think it's a good way to keep people who are at a higher level of understanding of the game occupied
Challenge, yeah.
and challenged while they're playing with maybe a lower people who aren't as experienced in the game, right? So like in Jamie's one shot, I rolled 2 characters. I didn't even ask him. Like I just rolled 2 characters because it's like I'm gonna be so streamlined with just doing one who's just a beat 'em up, shoot 'em up fighter that like I can also play a cleric at the same time. It's
Which
not,
I was going to say, if you're going to do 2 characters, you should always go into 2 different roles with the characters. Like a healer and a
Yeah.
fighter, or I'm going to a bard, I'm going to do some support and some buffing.
I'm gonna be
and
a
then-
sorcerer and I'm gonna
I'm
be
gonna
a
be
warlock.
sneaky.
Yeah.
You know, and
So once again, at some
Bard
point,
effect.
we got to make the really experienced player have to play the duality of alignment. It's like, yep, you have got
Oh, for
the
RPG
cleric.
practice? Yes.
Yeah, you've got the good sun cleric over here, but I'm also going to be playing the necromancer.
Yeah. You could definitely do that, you know, assign those roles to the
No.
players.
You're
Yeah.
not a healer. I'm
Hey,
just
gonna make
late
you
on the
play
healing.
both those characters. Just you're not allowed to kill yourself.
They're still
Yeah.
breathing-ish.
The
Yes, yeah.
They can make
but
movements.
ultimately,
they're
at the end of
both
the day, I do think it
healers.
is an excellent training experience.
Oh, I agree.
And I do think it is also a way to keep more experienced players interested in the group because, like I was saying too, you know, if you have an experienced player who's playing multiple characters, then let's say it's like just brand new session 1. You've got your experienced player running 2 characters. He can go back to back, right, from 2 different perspectives of battlefield roles. Go through his turn, talk about what he's doing, help teach the next generation of players so that they can, you know, kind of help guide them through their turns, right? So you have twice the amount of experience being shadowed by the newer group, and it's not something that you have to do in addition to all your other tasks as the dungeon master.
Which lets you avoid, let's say, the DMPC. Because while
Yes.
you've done them well enough, I've seen others and read horror stories where the DMPCs,
Are the most powerful guy you've ever met in the world?
yeah.
Well,
And
yeah,
plot
because you
armor?
do. Yeah, exactly. They live and eat and breathe plot armor, and that I, again, you know, we had just talked about this in the past. I had made unfair rulings, and I had to, you know, kick myself in the shin over it. Like if from this discussion we're having right now,
Yep.
if there's any piece of advice I can give you as the dungeon master, do not run the DNPC. That is
Yes.
the biggest mistake that you can make because what's going to happen
I
is
think the elixir of plot armor is probably the worst one.
yeah, exactly.
Like, here, everybody
basically
drink
what it
this.
is.
Oh, yep, you got immediate plot armor.
though it
Twice.
Yeah.
did lead to a hilarious TPKN. But
Yeah, but basically, because what you're going to do then inherently, what you will
DMPC.
inherently do is you will take your expanded level of game knowledge and bring that into the character.
Yeah.
Right? Your character will just inherently, whether you like it or not, outperform the other characters. They're going to know where to move.
Yes.
They're going to know what not to do. They're going to know the right questions to ask. They're basically going to be the incarnate plot railroad.
Or
Yeah, 'cause
you're
you're
going to
literally being-
try to get around that and you're going to end up with the most inept character in the party.
Yeah, you'll
because you're constantly.
overcompensate.
No, I'm not
Trying to
asking
hold
questions.
back.
Why? Because I know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
I'm also. I don't know where to move, so I'm going to go last in the initiative order.
Yeah.
I'm not going to come move over here because I don't know where I'm going to end.
It's one thing.
It's a
to-
double-edged sword.
It is a double-edged sword. It's one thing to, as the dungeon master, take control of another player's character when they're dominated. It's a totally separate thing as the dungeon master take over a player's character because they're missing the session and you don't want anything bad to happen to that
Yeah.
character. But to actually run the full-on DMPC is, in my opinion, like I was saying, like it's a mistake. Don't do it because at the end of the day, if there is room in the party for the DM to have a character, there's room in the party for another player.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you were going to say something, Josh?
Oh, no, they filled my point.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is, to move forward down the road of this actual discussion for just one bit, DMs, don't ever be afraid to tell the guy ineffectually playing two characters, make your choice. Which character do you want to play? One of these guys needs to walk away, or
they're
one
going
of
to
these
fall
guys
in
is
the sky.
going to hear a large pile of rocks fall from the sky.
Yeah.
And if you can't decide, as the DM, it's
We'll do
your
something.
job to make decisions
Yeah.
on how to rectify the problem.
Yeah,
because
I
I've seen somebody playing two characters where it's like, I've got so many options to do right now, I can't
Analysis
even move.
paralysis gets
Yes.
even worse. Yes.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with that decision. Just like another big advice, we as a group always tell our dungeon masters that come to us for advice: own up to your mistakes, admit your mistakes, correct your mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? And this isn't any different. If you feel you made a mistake letting somebody play
Well,
a second character because of whatever
Letting
reason
somebody
it may
try
be.
something new is never what I consider a mistake. It's a learning experience. But I
Yes.
get what you're saying. Never be afraid to tell a member of your party if they're making a huge mistake. Let them make the mistake. Show them the mistake. Rectify the mistake.
Yes. I agree with that.
It's 100%. I agree. It's,
But the point, like what you were saying, that we
If you're not learning, you're gonna keep repeating.
you should make a second character, and then later on, like, okay, they're
Yeah.
okay now.
Yeah.
You don't need that second character
Okay.
anymore. Crap.
Now I get what he was saying. It's like own up to your mistake. Yeah. If I told you, hey, you should be playing two characters.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they-
No,
they
I was
weren't ready
wrong.
for- yeah.
I fucked up. We're killing off character 2.
Honesty
'Cause-
is,
yeah.
the best thing for any kind of.
But if you come to me and
open
ask me,
communication
can I
does
play
wonders.
two characters?
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah, go ahead. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
This guy can't do shit, and he keeps handing himself stuff without announcing it.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't just like text box kill.
Yeah,
Any
I know,
character yet,
but
but
I
like-
mean,
Just because
You
we're
make the
talking,
decision.
Yeah, no. Just because we're talking about it, I
Yeah.
would propose that if you find yourself in this situation, an acceptable, I guess you could say like band-aid, like fix to what happened is rather than having that character be permanently assigned to that player, you opened it up to a round robin roll every week, so that way the character can still be in the party. And it gives other people the opportunity to maybe contribute to the character's story, and it could free up and give some pointers with the analysis paralysis.
And even
are you asking
players.
me to hand Bernardo around the table?
No, but what I'm saying is, hypothetically, if I'll use myself as an example just to pick on myself.
We're not
right?
passing you around the table.
Yeah, so I'm playing two characters, and I'm suffering from tunnel vision, analysis paralysis, whatever you want to call it, and now I'm in a 30-minute encounter. I was 25 minutes of the time because I couldn't decide what to do with what character in the moment, right?
Yeah.
You can, something I would recommend you do in that situation is, as the dungeon master say, hey, I know you want to run this other character, I know you're interested in this other character, but we are having an issue with how long it's taking you to get through encounters, whether it be exploration or combat. So what I'd like to do is, this next week, in the next few weeks, we're going to have that second character be controlled by some other people in the group. I'm going to tell them you're responsible for making sure you treat that character with the same level of interest that you would treat your own character, just to give you the point of view about how maybe some more experienced players may handle having a second character of that type of class.
It's a good learning opportunity. is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
It may give someone exposure to a different type of class they may not have played yet.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I love my wizards. I do wizards all the
Yeah.
time. Hey, man, use a fighter for a little bit, too.
Yeah. And I would definitely
Okay.
say that, like, you know, this isn't meant to be punishment, but this is meant to be like a learning opportunity.
Yes.
Because the goal is, at the end of the day, the goal is to be playing the game, and unfortunately, that does mean like turns need to be taken, time needs to be spent, and time needs to be spent not over analyzing the situation, right? It
Talking to the wrong guys.
yeah, the hardest part about playing Dungeons and Dragons is getting everyone to agree to a date and time. The second hardest part about playing Dungeons and Dragons is actually making use of the time everyone has agreed upon.
Yeah.
Right?
Guys,
So-
how are we going to do this? Well, let's spend 2 hours discussing this particular plan.
Plan A,
but
B,
we're
C,
not
D,
going to do this
and
plan.
then actually do Plan Q.
Yes.
Wait,
So-
we had a plan?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's not meant to be punishment, but it's meant to be a learning opportunity, right? Because again, this could be like they're playing a new class they've never played before. Maybe they're not familiar with how some of the powers or stances or abilities work, right? And so, you know, you're just allowing them to see how those things work from a different perspective.
Or to bring in much needed resource, like a heal bot, basically. Like,
Yeah.
heal bot is going to heal you while I get to play the class I want to play. But
Yeah.
this way we don't die necessarily so quickly.
Yeah, there's actually I did give this piece of advice to an individual who was like, nobody wants to play the support character, so we're constantly getting our butt handed to us in encounters because we don't have a healer. What should we do? I was like,
Round
make a
robin.
healer NPC. Once per week, you do a random roll off to see who's responsible for the heal bot. Whoever rolls highest or lowest, you know, whatever rule you decide as a dungeon master.
The
this
shortest
week-
straw.
Yeah.
I
Draw
mean-
shortest straws, right? Or it's like
And then now you're out of the raffle
See,
until
yeah,
it gets around everyone.
shortest straw I like better because then you like guys like Lou and Jamie would never play the cleric.
Yeah. But yeah.
I'm not throwing shade. I'm merely stating it's like guys whose initiatives have been single digits 3 fights in a row.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, but like but that's it. You know, you just pass around the responsibility.
Yeah.
That way you bring that much needed
Whatever that
role or
role
support,
is,
you know,
and
to the front. And it could even be like it could literally be like what happened with us. We needed another frontline fighter.
Yeah.
Right. And like you pitched it to the group as a responsibility. This is something I want to do, and I think it would benefit the group. These are all benefits.
And honestly, you've seen how well the combats have been going since.
Yeah. You're
We've
able.
survived a dragon fight.
Yeah. Like exactly. Right. So
So sometimes it's a boon. Sometimes,
it's a chore.
yeah.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
Especially when it comes to the loot distribution, because now I've got to sit there and I've got to go, well, does this second character have an initial claim on this item, or should I let some of the people playing only one character
Have first
take
dibs.
something?
Yeah.
Loot is always distributed by the character.
Well,
Loot
no, but
is
that,
never distributed by the player.
But he's saying from a player's
No,
perspective.
no,
to be
that's
fair.
what I'm
for you?
saying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
from a
like,
player's
okay,
perspective,
so
I don't want to be
we
perceived
have this
as greedy.
+1 bastard sword, but I already took the +1 shield. Anybody want that +1 bastard sword? Instead of just going, well, who needs the +1 bastard sword
Yeah.
besides me?
And I 100% agree
be
with that.
fair.
From a
Yeah.
player's perspective, you don't want to be perceived as the loot funnel.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I'm getting twice as much stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And that's and
But I
at the
am.
beginning of the discussion, that was one of the drawbacks that I had talked about. There are some parameters that could be viewed as success
Yeah.
within Dungeons and Dragons, one of them being loot and how it's awarded. Right? And so if you're going to award loot into a group that has an individual playing more than one character, you have to logically always assign loot based off the character.
Yes.
Right? Because in the real world, like in the real world, we recognize like yes, these characters are being played by the same person, but in the game where the rules are meant to be applied, that character put their life on the line just as much as everybody else.
Correct.
Yeah.
That character
Yeah.
did just as much of the work as everybody
should get
else.
paid.
They're entitled to they're entitled to just as much of the reward as everybody else. And so you got to divvy it up. Same thing with XP. You have to divvy up XP
Yep.
by the character, not the player.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying is the hard part for me is, you know me, I'm not normally a loot funnel. I'm the first guy to go, oh, you need it, then you take it. I
Not
don't need it
normally
that
a
much.
loot funnel. Every time there's been a magic weapon in this
I'm
campaign,
sorry,
you're
I
like,
knew.
anybody using that?
Yeah, once again, it's not a turn to the guy sitting next to me at the table who goes, I'm taking that. No, I go, it's
Bradley
like
the
the body.
Baker.
Yeah, he deserved it.
I don't know, man. You just were like, you didn't even ask
excuse
for
me.
it. You just stabbed
opened,
him.
Hey, open a door without 8 people behind it, then talk to
He
me.
also
All right,
killed
we-
2 player characters, but
All right,
Still
we're
not
digressing.
taking-
We're digressing.
Because it's always funny.
Yeah.
Well,
But no,
I though-
the loot horse sits next to me. I'm the guy who goes, is anybody using that? No, because last time we had a huge pile of loot.
this is true.
We ended up selling a bunch of stuff
you
that
could've
could
used.
have been equipped perfectly to us.
Yeah.
Party had weeks. I posted that list multiple
And
times.
then
They're like,
people always said they wanted
I'm like,
something
okay,
after I'd
it's
go.
sold.
Oh, I'll take the immovable rod. Oh, I wanted that. Well, remember when I said, hey, does anybody want that immovable rod?
yeah.
And nobody said anything?
Or the staff of healing that nobody wanted until now they want it.
Yep.
Oh, we already sold it.
All right, we'll
Yeah.
sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
yeah. Gotta divvy it up by the character.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Because the party, the characters would want to be best equipped to handle the next challenge.
Yes.
So
100%.
while yes, sometimes when you do control more than one character, you are going to be getting more of the loot technically because you're dividing between more. You have more pieces of the pie.
Yeah, you have more pawns.
That you have to
you have more
equip.
pawns on the board.
Let
But
alone if you have 2 dual wielders. Oh gosh, that would be
Yeah,
a
that's
nightmare. on
specifically why Bernardo went sword and board.
Yeah, but like if you don't do that, and if you divvy up XP by the player, that player is forced to split the XP between the two characters.
He's leveling
evenly.
half as fast
He's
as
leveling
everyone
half
else.
as fast as everybody else. So
Yeah.
Or you're
Behind
basically
very
giving him
quickly,
double
yeah.
the XP because he has 2 characters to put each on each of them, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, that's not fair.
Yeah, and then
Well,
at
no,
what
no,
point?
I mean, it goes either way.
No,
Yeah,
you see,
yeah.
yeah, and I was gonna say with your idea, then I want to play 3 characters. Now 2 characters aren't even leveling. He's just using it to triple level his main character.
yeah, and then you're just funneling it all into.
Yeah,
one,
you're just funneling everything.
But
into
no,
that.
I would never let anybody play a third character until everybody was at least playing a second character.
So I have to get Sierra technically playing 2 characters.
She's playing one
So
because
if
the
I
animal
play 2
companion is a class
summoners-
feature.
Does he have his own initiative?
No, he has no
Okay,
initiative.
fair enough. I'll allow that.
But the same thing
For
goes.
now.
The same thing goes with loot. You know, if you're divvying up loot by the player, eventually the 2 characters become under-equipped,
Yes.
and they just do not perform at the same
Yeah.
level as the rest of the party.
Yeah. no.
And then we beat Josh.
But yeah,
Alright.
I think you guys are right. Multiple characters, not in every situation, but a good tool in a lot of situations.
Yeah. Yeah, all right, yeah. To summarize, I'd say unless there was some specific rule is written that there is in this whatever RPG system you're using,
Thou
a
shalt
one-
have only one
not
character.
one, not 2, 3 is right out. Yeah, unless there is specifically stated in the rules that there is a 1-to-1 ratio
Or a session 0 agreement.
or session 0, then you should allow your characters to play multiple characters. But again, all of this comes down to what the dungeon master is comfortable with. Because even in the game system where it says 1-to-1 ratio, we treat most of these rules as guidelines. They're open to interpretation.
Yeah.
You know, if the dungeon master says, we're going to fudge that one a little bit, then it's up to the dungeon
I've
master.
done that with the levels on modules myself.
Yep.
It's like, oh, level 5. I think it was level
Level
3.
6.
Any final points from
What?
Tom? Any final points on it?
No, once again, it should just be a want or a need if you're going to run multiple characters. It should never be the DM going, "Hey, you should run multiple characters." It should always be the player going, "I want to play multiple characters."
Josh, anything else?
I would say if you're going to run 2 characters, just make sure you're prepared to run the 2 characters. You know, if you're not feeling like you can, or like later on you realize
force
it was
yourself.
a mistake,
Just let them
just say something, or like get ready to do something. Like, for example, I gave Sherman. I realized about partway through the Howling Fortress he was a lot too much to handle, so I was like, all right. Once the Howling Fortress is done, he's going to be like, all right, I got my loot, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Luckily enough, he died. Didn't have to worry about it.
It did solve itself. That
Things
is
that
true.
clerics shouldn't say. Well, luckily enough, he
I'm
died.
not a cleric of tier right now.
We get
I'm
XP
Joshua.
for Sherman, right? Alignment point.
And the Necromancer's like, yeah, it's a good thing he died.
Yeah.
Well, what if
Bring
we
him
true
back.
resin and then kill him ourselves? Do we get double XP?
No.
All right.
All right,
Good.
guys.
Yeah.
We're doing the
Excellent
thing.
discussion
We're
on
doing the
that.
thing. We're doing the thing.
Doing the thing.
Ultimate power. And I raised the paladin back up. Sherman's Revenge.
Yeah.
No,